And welcome to another edition of Lab Rats.
Is that our new theme? Lab Rats!
I'm Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And today on the show, I'm so excited. This is my happy dance.
This is more Windows crap.
It is more Windows crap, but it's fun. It's Windows Search and Destroy. We're going to go in, we're going to manually remove software.
Can we remove Windows?
No, we cannot.
I actually kind of like Windows a little bit. I wouldn't want to remove it entirely.
And I kind of like the Apple, so it's a little game we play. But anyway.
We're a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll.
There you go. Let's take a look at a message from our sponsor, and we'll get back into this in a minute, and we'll show you how to decimate software from Windows manually.
This is Bongo. He likes bananas. This is a banana peel. It is a slippery hazard. This is Camtasia Studio 4. It is simple to use. Now answer our trivia question. What screen recording software does not swing from trees or make you slip? I'll be back at the end of the show with the answer.
So, under what circumstances would we manually remove software on Windows?
Man, it's crap.
If you hate download and install an application and you hate it?
Yeah, there's a few places where you'd actually want to remove it manually. Now, when you install a piece of software, typically it comes with an uninstaller program,
right?
That you would click on through and just hit uninstall.exe or whatever it is either in the folder or from the start menu.
Yes.
But sometimes it's not so thorough. It doesn't quite get all of the stuff.
It leaves stuff on the system.
And there's been a number of cases where there's been a failed uninstallation or a failed installation, and it's got the stuff in there, but you click on it and it says, I don't know what to do with this.
Right, broken.
It's broken.
It's broken.
So you need to go in there and actually manually remove these things by hand.
Right. And there's another circumstance where you'd want to do this, and that's if you get infected with spyware or adware, or something along those lines, even a virus. Sometimes if your antivirus just refuses to remove the malware, or your anti-spyware program refuses to do it, then you're going to have to do it manually. And that can be tricky.
Yeah, it can be tricky. I mean, in general, my personal recommendation, when someone gets hit by spyware like that and it's not coming out very easily, is often it's just to reformat the machine right from scratch. If you want to give it a go, though, you can try doing a few manual removal tools here. So
what we're going to show you here today on today's episode is sort of the key areas that you need to go into and the steps you need to take to remove a piece of software manually. Now, it's not going to be exactly by the book here because all software does unique things to the system. We're going to show you the key areas where it will embed itself and how to remove the settings in there. So let's start with, on an installation, a program is going to put itself into, I would say, up to 4 key areas on your system. Number 1 would be your registry. Now, your registry is like a big filing cabinet in Windows, right? It is where all the settings are kept. It's where Windows goes to look and says, where is this program? So we'll show you how to get into the registry in a bit and how to get rid of some settings and to actually look for program references in there in a minute. The other place is in this startup area. Windows, when it starts up, it has a list of tasks that it does. And so that's where, some of these helper applications like QuickTime and iTunes, that's where your antivirus is. It's where your services are listed and that sort of thing. And so there are references to programs that start on startup. You have to go into there and have a look at that too. Then there's the actual executable files. Now we're talking about the programs, the .exe files and all the bits and pieces that make up the program. And that's sitting in, in the case of Windows XP, that's sitting in the
C/colon full program files.
Typically. Program files,
program
right?
files.
/program files.
Yeah.
In Vista, it's actually in the same place. There's actually another folder, and it's called Program Files on the C drive. Let's have a quick look here. See, there you go. There's a Program Files. And if I go into there, you'll see basically a listing of all the programs that you may have installed on the system, or at least the parent folders where they are kept. So, for example, if you go into Microsoft Office here, there'll be a folder for Office 12, and you can go deeper and deeper into there.
We should mention that this is the place where it defaults to typically Although you can install a program file anywhere on your system. You don't have to install it into the program files directly, but that's the one that it chooses by default, typically when you're using an installer.
Right. Then you have to consider that there are application settings, right? Information, data, and things like that. In Vista, you're going to find that in your user folder. So C:\users, then your name, if you're the administrator, so in my case it would be Andy, / now this is a hidden directory called app data. And as you can see here, it should actually be here, but right now it's an application, a hidden folder. So we're going to actually have to unveil it first. Let's do that real quick. I'm going to click on our control panel here, and I'm going to go into folder options. This is very similar actually on Windows XP as well. I'm going to click on the View tab, and we're going to go down. See, it says Hidden Files and Folders here. Right now it's set to Do Not Show Hidden Files and Folders, but I want to show that. And I click Apply, and click OK.
Actually, while you're there,
oh, okay, I'm going to go back in.
I'm going to have you do something else for security's sake here.
Yeah, View.
View. The section just below that where it says Hide Extensions for Known File Types. Uncheck that.
Uncheck that. Right.
Uncheck that. You don't want to hide those extensions, because that way, if you have those extensions hidden, bad guys can masquerade as things that are more familiar. So you could have something like savefile.jpg.exe, and since Windows knows what an exe file is, it'll hide that, and it'll look like a JPEG to you. So it'll look like it's a save file.
There you go. There's a little bonus tip right there, right in the middle of our demo. Okay, let me just close that out here, and I'm going to go back to that user folder, and so all of a sudden, as you can see here, app data has appeared. Now if we go into app data and go into local, we're going to see different folders, like there's a Microsoft folder and an Adobe folder, and this is where some of the applications, like in the case of Adobe, for example, where Acrobat files and information settings go in there too. So you'll have to unhide that and check for that. Now in the case of Windows XP, that's called the Documents and Settings folder, correct?
Right. Yeah.
And that would be found where?
We're not going to show this, but just go into Documents and Settings.
Off of the root.
Off of the root.
Yeah.
And then you'll have, instead of users, it'll go Documents and Settings, then the name of your user. So in this case, again, it would be Andy. And then it would be, oh, well, I'm not finding it here. Again, it may be hidden, so we'll look for that.
Okay.
So you continue, and I'll search here.
Okay, so let's take you through a fairly straightforward process. We're going to start looking for QuickTime, for example. I'm going to remove QuickTime manually from the system here, just because it sort of puts its tentacles into various places that we want to touch on, and I'm going to show you where the various files are and how to take them out. So we're going to start with you want to go into the memory and see what's actually running right now to make sure that any application that happens to be running in system, you want to kill that off. And so that would be in the case of a virus or a program that you want to remove, or spyware and that sort of thing. So it's the old three-finger salute, Control, Alt, Delete. Switch over into the task manager here. And we're going to click on Applications and see, first of all, if it's running in there. And if it is, then actually you can close it manually, of course, on your taskbar. Or you can go in here and you can say End Task. So you can click on that and click End Task. I won't do that right now because we don't have anything we want to kill off at the moment.
Right. And that's for just applications that are running, not
right.
necessarily processes that are running in the background.
So there is a Processes tab here, and I talked about QuickTime here. So I'm going to go down and see if I can find a QuickTime reference. And sure enough, Qt Task, which is a little helper application for QuickTime, is running, and it's actually showing up in the right-hand corner in our system tray. But I'm going to just go End Process here. I'm going to knock that out, right? Because you don't want to have, if you're going to remove something, you want to basically take it out of commission in the current session of Windows, right?
Right.
So there you go. So I've removed that there.
Now that'll only remove it for this particular session. If it's set to start up manually or automatically at the beginning of every time you log on, you can do that now, but it'll fire up again next time you restart the machine.
That's right. That's right. So, and that's what I'm going to take you next, into the startup area to take out any references there. Now, there's a built-in function called MSConfig, or Microsoft, what is it called? MSConfig, System Configuration. And you can get to it by clicking on the Start button here and typing MSConfig.
Same in both Windows Windows XP and Windows Vista.
In Windows XP, of course, MSConfig, you actually go to the Run command first and type in MSConfig there.
Right.
I'm going to type it and hit Enter. Now, we want to look at two areas here. The Startup, and this is a list of all the things that starts up when Windows boots. So, as you can see, QuickTime is listed here.
That's the one that you were just showing off a few seconds ago.
That was the one that was running in memory. And I'm going to uncheck that and I click on Apply.
Right, and this is a way to get around, say you're trying to kill a process using the Ctrl-Alt-Delete task manager scenario, and it's not shutting down for whatever reason,
Right.
because it's required by the system at that point. To get rid of it upon next boot up, this is where you would go.
That's where you would go, exactly. So I've done that. Now I also want to go into services. Now services is kind of kind of convenient tools that Windows will start that it needs for everyday tasks and that sort of thing. So you want to check to see if the program is running any services. And first of all, you want to go into that tab, and then you want to click on Hide All Microsoft Services, just to kind of pare down what you're looking at here. You don't want to be killing off any Microsoft services per se. So I click on that
you
there.
could, if something that you absolutely don't need it running, and you know you don't need it running, and
Well,
it's a
you
Microsoft
could.
service.
Right.
Then you're right, you can.
But in the case of third-party software, you're not going to kill
Right.
off any Microsoft services.
So, for example, a printer driver that's lurking around in the background may be under your Services tab.
That's right. Antiviruses programs put themselves there. Viruses and spyware put themselves in services. Sometimes they set themselves up as services. So you can go there. Now, in this particular case, when I've turned off all the Microsoft services, nothing is listed.
So you're running fairly clean right now.
So running fairly clean, exactly.
So if you're seeing a bunch of stuff in this section after you do this that you don't recognize, look it up on Google to find out what it is, potentially. And if it's something that you know, like you've got a Lexmark printer driver that's sitting in there and you want it running, well then fine, leave it there. But if there's just something without any identifying characteristics there under, see, it gives you service manufacturer status and date disabled. Yeah, so if it's got stuff in there under the manufacturer and service that you just don't know what it is, look it up first of all to make sure you're not killing off something else that you've installed and you want to keep running. And if it's not something you want, get it off.
So startup, services was the two places. Now I do want to show you one more thing too. You can actually go in and turn off a service manually as well. Let's switch over again into Ctrl-Alt-Delete. Click on the Start Task Manager here, and I'm going to take you into Services. If we click on Services, the item at the bottom here, we will go into your Administrator Tools, and we will see all the services that are actually running right now on the system. And what you can do is you can actually search for what you're looking for, and you're going to right-click and choose Properties. And there you can actually click the Stop button and actually stop the service from running there. That's a really good way to make sure that the service is not running anymore and it's not going to come back. And also too, you have a startup type there, so you want to change that from automatic to manual or actually disable as well, so it doesn't come back on the next reboot.
There you go, and that's, I think, one of the most important things to sort of stress about this whole process is anything you kill off, whether it's in your system tray, you see a little icon down there for QuickTime and you hit exit for that. That's only for this particular session. This is the way to get rid of them permanently so that they don't fire up again.
That's right.
And they have a habit of coming back over and over and over again, even when you disable them sometimes. So then we want to sort of remove them from the system altogether if we can.
So there's a couple of the places we want to go next, and so I'm going to take you to the registry next. That's really the source of all evil. So programs that start off automatically or appear out of nowhere, it's a listing in the registry that's causing that. So let's get into that. I'm going to type in regedit or registry editor, and in Vista, of course, I'm going to type that and hit enter. In XP, I'm going to go run regedit. And we're going to start that up. Now this is a pretty dangerous area of the operating system.
Now if you're in the registry, don't just start disabling things willy-nilly, because you can make your system completely unbootable if you remove things that shouldn't be removed.
Right. So there is actually a function in regedit where you can back up your registry. You're going to click on File, Export, and you can actually export the registry as a .reg file. I highly recommend you do that before you start messing around inside that, because you're going to want to input it lately if you cause a problem. Okay, so one of the great things about Registry Editor is it actually has a find function, and it's all kind of broken down into some critical areas here. But what I like to do is just go, after I've killed it out of memory, I've killed it out of startup and services, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go Edit and Find, or Control F, that's the key command, and I'm going to type in the name of the file. Now.
Or you can type a keyword too, even.
Yeah, a keyword. So you could type in, for example, if you could type in Apple or iTunes. Just be careful. With the listings that are going to come up. Yeah. They won't necessarily be directly related to the program that you're trying to remove. So you have to be very selective about this process.
Okay. The one thing that I would suggest this is very, very useful for is if you know the file that's causing the problem, you've isolated this one file that is related to a bad system process. So let's just say you find badfile.exe is in your startup folder, and you remove it from the startup, but every time you reboot that thing, it's getting put back in there because it's a virus. Then you can actually look in the registry for badfile.exe and go looking for what's pointing to that, and just remove those registry entries there.
Absolutely. Let's try that. Let's search for quicktime.exe, because there's an executable file, right? Let's see what it finds. Find next. And it's going to search. And sometimes it'll take a while, because this thing is really, really a large file with tons and tons of data in it. So have a bit of patience around this. Ultimately, it's going to find the location of, or any kind of reference to the .exe file, and it'll actually show you where it lives on the system. And most of the time, it's going to be living, in that, if it's a legitimate application, either in your app data or your program data file. So that's what you're going to be ultimately looking for. But anyway,
this is taking quite a while.
It's taking a while.
This is taking a while, so it may not be.
So that may be a good thing to do at the moment.
All right.
But anyway.
And one thing I'd mention as well about the registry is I've noticed this before. It often will save multiple listings in here. So don't think just because you found it once and removed it that's it. Look for it again and again and again until you've cleared up all of the references to that file.
And that's one of the things. If you've removed it from the registry and you've removed it from startup and that sort of thing, what I recommend you do is then you restart the system and you go into safe mode and you do it all over again.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about safe mode, of course, is that it is basically a raw diagnostic state for Windows that doesn't load any files. So no file is going to be occupied. You may try to actually remove some programs in regular Windows mode and discover that it says, sorry, it's being used by the system. So if that's the case, you want to boot into safe mode. And the way you do that is you restart your system, and when the system is in black, you want to start tapping the F8 key over and over again until it beeps. And then it'll give you a listing, and it'll say, of ways to boot into the system. What you want is to choose safe mode, go into the system, and then do this whole process again.
Now, the one thing that drives me absolutely batty about safe mode and the way that people are writing software these days is there'll be certain things that are misbehaving. You want to get rid of them, and you try, and when you're in regular mode, and you can't because the files are in use, but you boot into safe mode and it says, sorry, you must be running in full Windows mode to remove that. So you're sort of hung at that point.
So what do you do at that point?
Switch to Mac. No, at that point, I don't know what to do in some of those cases. You have to do some deep drilling at that point and really find out what's causing those things to run. Do some of these tricks that we've tried. Try removing them from startup. And if worse comes to worse, if it's a real nasty bug, as I said at the beginning, sometimes your only option is just to wipe your drive clean and start again from scratch with a clean install.
I have a really great little piece of freeware that you can actually use to help you with hard to remove programs that get into that situation. It's called Move On Boot. And basically, what this does is it marks a program or a file on your system and says next time the system reboots, delete it or move it. So I've just installed it here. I think I'll see if we can get it running before the end of the show. Well, it's going to install, and we'll show it after we take a break. So,
actually, we should come back to this one thing that we looked at a little bit earlier. Okay, I was looking for it under application data again, and I couldn't find it again. It was just because you have to unhide these application-specific files. So you would go into your Documents and Settings folder, then the folder with your username. Uncheck the box that tells you to hide those files, and then it'll show up in there. So we had, under your Documents and Settings user folder, you have about 8 different folders that were hidden because they don't want you messing with that unless you know what you're doing. So it's under application data in there as well.
Very good. All right, well, let's take a break, and when we come back, final thoughts, and I think we have a couple of pictures as well.
I think we do.
All right, excellent.
Earlier in the show, we asked you what screen recording software does not swing from trees or make you slip. Is it A, Bongo the Chimp, B, a banana peel, or C, Camtasia Studio 4? The answer is Camtasia Studio 4. Learn more at labrats.techsmith.com.
All All right, so two applications that we want to show you before we end this episode. The first one is Move On Boot Utility. This is really great for removing a file or a folder that refuses to delete in regular Windows mode, or if you go into boot mode, it'll say to delete this, you have to be in regular mode. It's a pain in the butt. So it's a Move On Boot. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to select a file that you want to get rid of. Let's go down here to the little installer file, X1 setup. We don't need that file. Click on Open. Click on Next, and I have a choice of either copying the file from one place to another, renaming the file on boot, or, best of all, delete the file.
Yeah, and delete it.
When I
if you're unsure, maybe just rename it or move it to a new location.
It's a good place to start anyway. And then you're gonna push the start button, and the system will restart, and it'll take care of whatever task that you've been promised.
Put it into a different location.
Now this is the second application, which should help you with your deleting and manually removing software, is a product that you've recommended to me that I wasn't really aware of, called Auto Runs.
Auto Runs.
Where did this come from?
Well, this was a company called Sysinternals, which I know that you've talked about in the past with other things, and they do a great product called Rootkit Revealer. Now, it was a company all to itself for a long time, but Microsoft has recently brought it in-house.
Right.
And Auto Runs is a program that they've written that is essentially MSConfig, just turbocharged.
On steroids.
Right, so I mean, there's a few things about MSConfig that I really don't like the tiny little window that it comes in, and you having to scroll around and move things up and down to get to all of the things you need. It's not a really good control panel for having a good overview of what's on your system, because you have to switch tabs, scroll a lot. Auto Runs, on the other hand, you can set up full screen, and it has a bunch of tabs at the top that allow you to switch through the various types of programs or things that will start up on boot, things that are bolted into Explorer, into Internet Explorer.
Scheduled tasks.
That sort of thing. And you also have one that just says everything. So you can see everything that's going to start up on your system at the beginning.
When Windows boots.
When Windows boots up. And it'll show you, it'll sort them under which registry key they're in. So it'll give you a good overview that way. And like MSConfig, if you don't want it to run next time you start up your system, just uncheck it.
Well, I really like this. I like the fact that you can actually see the registry address here for every item. And the other thing is, of course, like here's let's see if we can find QuickTime. We were talking about that before. Look, there's the actual path to the executable file.
Yeah,
so you can actually go in and actually find that and actually remove that.
Right, and you could get to this with MSConfig, but it was a real pain in the butt.
Right. There you go, and that's free, right?
And that is free.
Fabulous. There you
So
go.
I think it's Microsoft.com/Sysinternals.
Sysinternals. That's where I got it from, yeah.
All right.
Now, pictures. Pictures, as always.
Apparently
we have some from around the world today.
We have some from around the world. Lab Rats.
Global.
Yes.
That's right. Good.
So, first of all, we have Christopher, and he's currently in Iraq.
Wow.
I don't know whether he's still in Iraq, whether he sent this from there, but here he is with a couple of local children.
Wow, look at that.
Giving the peace sign.
Are we bringing technology to Iraq?
I guess so.
Yes, we are.
And also some soda.
Very good.
So thank you, Christopher.
Thank you for doing that. That's great.
And I find this very interesting. It's just, you never know when you're just putting this out here. I'm just staring into a lens over here.
Right.
And we don't know who's watching. And it's good to see the various things that people are doing around the world, people who are watching us as well.
We get really jazzed at it. So keep those pictures coming. We haven't had anything from Antarctica yet, but if you're in an Antarctic research station or in the Arctic, send it, or wherever you are in the world. Even if you're here in Vancouver or in Toronto.
If you're on the secret moon base on the far side of the moon, by all means, send us a photo.
Good. Okay, who else we have?
Well, this is another one in our series of Lab Rat around the world photos taken by our good friend Betsy Weber from TechSmith. Yeah. She's got we've got 3 stuffed rats with lab coats.
Right.
This is the 3rd.
Right.
And Betsy's currently on a trip in Europe.
Yeah. In Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam. Amsterdam. And Lab Rat is from Amsterdam.
It's the Lab Rat World Tour.
Yes.
I love it. Well, thanks, Betsy. We love you.
Yeah, and you can go see all of the ones. She's taking one photograph every day for a year.
Yeah, 365 days of Lab Rat.
Yep.
So we'll put that URL up so you can check that out. And if you want to send any pictures to us, email them to
feedback@labrats.tv. And you can send any mail to us at that same address.
Very good. Don't forget to check out the forums. LabRats and Cyberwalker.com share forums on cyberwalker.com. So there's a link on our website, labrats.tv. If you found us without coming to our website and to one of the many services where we upload this show, then come visit us on the web at labrats.tv. And, I guess And cyberwalker.com, of course, is the tech advice site that I run, so check that out too. All right.
All right.
That's it for us today. Thank you so much for downloading. We love to do this show for you. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
We'll see you next time. See ya.
Are you ready? Try this at home.
Okay. I found new hardware, USB root hub. So we were telling the truth in our previous episode.
Yes.
The style is being changed. Please wait for a while until the new version of the operating system comes out.